Hi everyone, I'm Sarina Fazan, and thank you so much for joining us for this episode of On the Record. You know, I love this show, and I love this show so much because you hear about inspiring stories and stories that can change your life and improve your life. And that's why I am so thrilled to have you both here. Dave Duquette, a financial advisor who I have known for a long time. Thank you so much, Dave, for being here.
I appreciate having me.
Oh yeah, I mean, and you're a familiar face on the show. So
Yes.
You've been on several times for a variety of topics. And Scott Upright, who I'm just meeting for the first time today. So nice to meet you, Scott.
Nice to meet you as well.
A dentist, but now an entrepreneur. So again, this is a story of how life can change. So let's just get right into it. Scott, we talked about you being a dentist, that you were a dentist.
Yep.
Okay, but you're no longer a dentist.
I'm a retired dentist now. I practiced for 26 years in a small town in Michigan. And I grew up on a farm. You know, it was always my dream to be a dentist, and I did it. I did it for a long time, but then I started to have some neck and back troubles, so
That's what I want to talk to you about, though.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, all of a sudden, you know, I don't want to be a dentist anymore, that you're no longer a dentist. And I have to say, so you're, and this is no laughing matter or anything, but I know your name is Scott Upright,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so you have back and neck injuries because you were leaning over patients all the time?
that was part of it. You know, I was a pole vaulter in college, which I never had any severe injuries from that, but I do have some scoliosis, which I didn't know of when I became a dentist. And about 15 years into practicing, I started noticing numbness in my fingers, in my left arm. My left arm would ache. I'd start having trouble with my leg, same thing. I had radicular pain, which is when your arm or your leg hurts, not necessarily your back or your neck. So I started getting MRIs, X-rays, and then started getting injections from a good friend of mine, Dr. Grover, who helped me stay out of surgery for probably 10 years. And then in 2013, I had to undergo a neck fusion, 2 levels, and also a lower back fusion, 1 level. And I continued to practice for 5 years after that, thankfully. And then I had to have complete reconstruction on my lower back 2 years ago.
So it was debilitating and ended your career as a dentist.
Yeah, I had to retire.
So I want to talk to you more about that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. And you do have great teeth. So
Thank
clearly,
you.
I always I'm like
Thank
looking
my
at your
parents
teeth.
for that. Yeah.
You have great teeth. I mean, it makes it, you know, like. So anyway, but Dave, there's so much I want to talk about, and we are going to go back to that.
Yeah.
But Dave, okay, so tell us how you know Scott. Like you met Scott in your neighborhood, correct?
Yeah, we both moved to Odessa in the same neighborhood, same street actually. I moved there 4 years ago, and you were probably
right after.
Right after, right? And we met at some holiday parties that our street would have, and
Yeah.
we just hit it off. He's a great guy, great family, and so our families get along. Our kids are around the same age, and that's how we met.
So sweet, on how you met. You became friends.
Yeah.
So then you hear about Scott's story, right? And as a financial advisor, what are you thinking at this time? You're young. You're a young man, right? So you're thinking, okay, here he is. He has all these years left to practice as a dentist. So you take it from there. What were you thinking?
Yeah. So I think Scott shared his story with me, around years ago when we first met. Mm-hmm. And obviously, what I do for a living, it stood out. And more importantly, though, it was what he was doing, still, right? Like opening up the restaurants and doing things after being a practicing dentist. And so, it was interesting. And then just recently I was like, you know what? It's such a compelling story, and the help that he can provide to dentists and the understanding of how to build a practice, but also how to make sure that you're doing the right things financially so that you can be like Scott, retire early, whether it's a
Whether you have to
medically
or
necessary
right.
or not.
Right.
And then, still open up businesses and do what you love and be able to
Absolutely.
take care of your family appropriately. So that's where we came together again on, talking about this and trying to team up and help more people.
So, and we are going to talk about that more and your path on doing that, opening up the businesses, and talk about the businesses that you have opened up. But going back to the injury, so here you are in the practice, a successful practice, thinking you're so passionate, right? So it must have been devastating at the time, though.
It was. When I went through the first fusions, he told me I was a limited time, and I tried to back off my patient load. We had a very busy practice. I had a hard time getting associates to come out into rural Michigan to help me. So I was my own. I could never, get people to travel out, dentists to come out and work for me. We had some, but I was pretty much the main dentist there. So I tired my back out.
So let me ask you that, going back to that question, when you said, the doctor said that you had limited time, so he basically told you at the time that you would not be able to practice dentistry anymore?
Yeah, he alluded to it. At that point, he was like, we're going to see how you do. If the symptoms come back, I'm going to have to fuse you more. Because my neck already has, I already have more problems above and below the fusion. Because when you fuse two levels, the ones above and below get herniations, and I've got a pretty bad one below. But since I've stopped practicing, that's settled down, so hopefully I won't need another neck fusion. But the lower back, I'm going to need more. It's just a matter of when.
Bless your heart. Bless your heart. So at this time, though, so you're thinking, all right, I went, to all these years of school to become a dentist. Believe me, Dave knows I come from a family of physicians, and so I know my niece and nephews are also studying to be doctors or dentists. So I know it's a lot, right? So you're getting this information from your doctor. What are you thinking though at the time, Scott? Are you thinking, okay, I need to reinvent myself, or what are you thinking?
I didn't do it that way. I was really fortunate. I had a really good advisor, similar to what Dave does, so I saved early. I was very committed to filling out my 401k, it was Safe Harbor. So I had the ability to take some time off, plus my wife is a pharmaceutical rep, so she did well. So I took a year off to really decide what my next thing was, because I just had to let my back rest. And just bending over, So I had to just kind of settle down, and then I met Doug and Trey, who do Grain and Berry franchises. I believed in the product. I love the food and the delivery that we do. So I bought into that, and I opened 2 of those. And I don't have to bend over. I can work from afar. I have really beautiful people that work for me that do the heavy lifting. So.
And
changed my life.
And I want to talk about that after the break, about the businesses you started and the entrepreneurial spirit. But speaking on that note, Dave, so Scott was living in Michigan at the time, so of course you guys did not know each other, but he did mention his financial advisor. Yeah. And I know with financial advisors you're limited on the advice you can give, especially on a show. And I understand that because of compliance. You can't talk specifically to people. Yes, we've been through that before, and and I understand. That's why we have strict compliance rules. But what Scott was talking about preparing at a young age, isn't this what you preach as well?
Absolutely. There's just fundamental steps you need to take to put yourself in the position that Scott did, right? So being able to retire early, being able to open up businesses and take advantage of those opportunities comes from discipline and great habits, right? So, like Scott said, saving at a very high level. That's, what we preach, saving, 20% of your gross income, ideally. Keeping the vast majority of that liquid, so accessible to you, so you can take advantage of opportunities. Having great emergency funds, because life will throw curveballs, as we all know with COVID and everything we've been through in the past year and everything, Scott's been through in his practice. So making sure you have the correct emergency funds. And not only that, making sure you have income protection, disability insurance, in case you get sick or injured and you can't work. If you don't have what we call paycheck insurance often, then that could be detrimental to your situation. So those fundamentals of protecting your income, the ground you've taken already, and then saving at an incredibly high level, that opens up all the opportunities for investments, whether they be in business or traditional.
All right, so no pun intended, but this is priceless advice, right? So let me ask you though. So some, and still fortunate that, believe me, you're a dentist, right? And you're a financial advisor. Some people at home, might be thinking, oh my gosh, but I barely make enough money at this point to make ends meet. Like, and especially right now with this unprecedented crisis that we're going through. Yeah. So how do people, and I know you can't maybe talk specifically, but if you feel like you're not even making enough to make ends meet, what do you do?
I mean, it's tough, right? There's certain circumstances, of course, if you lost your job during COVID, that is a difficult time frame. But if you were saving appropriately beforehand and you had that emergency fund, that will allow you some freedom, or at least reduce the stress that you're feeling when things change. Now, if you're not making enough, you gotta, nowadays, people can find a lot of different side gigs and do things to make extra money. And secondarily, most of the time that I come across people, they think they can't save, they really can. There's a lot of leftover money that they're not really thinking about. Because it's there, it's pretty easy to spend it. Right?
Right.
So you got to create that systematic approach.
Like getting that extra Starbucks coffee, or Dunkin' Donuts, or Buddy Brew.
Whatever that may be, right?
Whatever that.
Well, and it's sometimes not about, budgeting to that degree. It's about working on priorities. So, I think I compare budgeting, especially like, just don't buy that coffee and you'll be financially successful. That doesn't work because people. Listen, I have mine right here. Right?
Compliments of CP Communications and Red House Streaming.
Absolutely. Right? So people are going to drink their coffee. I compare that to, fad diets. Right? So there's all of those times. Just don't eat bread. Well, then what happens when you go to that Italian restaurant and you can't eat the pasta, right? You can't eat the bread. That's probably not going to be a lasting habit that's, going to create success. So we really focus on creating a spending plan. We want to identify how much money you have to blow every month. Right? That is more of a freeing piece of information in saying, okay, I know I can spend this and not feel guilty about doing it. Right? Because that's what we've created with this budgeting and just make sure you're not spending any money. People work very hard for the money that they make. So enjoy it. But as long as you're doing the correct things prior to that, right? Protect your income, save 20% of your income.
So whatever that income is, try to save 20% of it.
Ideally.
Right?
If you're doing those two things and you're focusing on those fundamentals, blow the rest of the money that comes in. Have fun, enjoy it, right? Go on vacation, buy the coffee, whatever that may be. You can now enjoy that money without feeling guilty and stressed out that you spent it.
And I think, that is just, comparing it to a fad diet, I think is just like the best comparison because it's true. I think we've all gone through things where, okay, I know I have, like I'm not going to eat bread or I'm not going to eat dessert or not have that glass of wine or whatever it is, Well, one thing that you and I've always wanted to talk to you about, Dave, and I know both of you now, how old are each of your kids? But you all have kids.
Mine are 5 and 6.
5 and 6. And
4 and 6.
4 and 6. So speaking of savings, right? Like, so we're adults, but the earlier we can start saving, the better, right?
Correct. So, Scott and I, we're talking about working with, these dental schools and these people coming out, fresh start. You need to start day one, right? And the 401k is great. Save into that, get the match if there is one in certain companies. But you have to have that focus of saving right away. Now, just because you didn't do it in your 20s and 30s doesn't mean that you can't start in your 40s, 50s, 60s even.
And that's really important to know, that it's never too late to start anything or start a good habit. It's never too late to start a good habit.
Correct. It just sometimes becomes more difficult, of course. When people come into my office in their 60s stressed out about, I want to retire, and then we dig into what's going on, sometimes to, change those habits is a little bit more difficult than the younger professionals that haven't developed those bad habits.
Right. So, I want to get into the businesses, of course, but and I know I keep on teasing to that, so we're going to get into that. But speaking of wanting to talk to dental students and give back, and talking to students, why is this so passionate for you, Scott?
It is for me because I see a lot of young dental students. I know how much money they're paying to go to dental school.
Yeah.
It's a massive commitment. It's a lot of work, and you have to protect your future. I think that's what disability insurance is. As much as you say, how much can I afford? You can't afford enough. You really have to take care of yourself, because it's not like life insurance. Disability can happen in a car accident, can happen with a chainsaw, can break your arm, can be short-term disability, can be long-term. You can't bend over anymore. You can't see, maybe an eye, you lose an eye, or you have a brain injury. There's a lot of things that can happen to you. So if you're committed to that, you just say that's part of the budget, that's taken care of. God forbid, if anything happens to me, that's there to keep my mortgage going, maybe my car payment, and to help us just keep moving as a family.
So thank goodness you had it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So Dave, so that's another thing. So when you budget, and so that's what you want to tell these young students too, is,
It's part of it. Yeah.
Part of it. And if you're an entrepreneur, if you have your own business, you can buy insurance, the
Absolutely.
disability insurance.
Yeah, so that, like when you're looking at the priorities of your financial life, protecting your income should be the first priority. Because if your income goes away,
Your life.
nothing else
standards.
really
Still
matters.
have to live.
You
Yeah.
can't, you obviously can't, get all of those goals that you want to accomplish done, right?
Right.
You can't pay that mortgage, so you have to protect your income, right? We buy auto insurance, right? But it's
Yes.
because we're forced to, right?
Right.
But we're
No.
not forced to buy disability insurance in our country, unfortunately. It's kind of an odd concept. We have to protect that $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 car, whatever it may be, right? But our income that's generating, in many cases, six figures plus, we don't have to protect that if we don't want to.
That is such an interesting point, because we are forced to get like auto insurance or certain insurances. If you own a home, you have to get homeowners insurance. You have to do all, but you aren't forced to get the disability insurance. So if someone is seeking disability insurance, where should they go, or who do they talk to try to find out?
So it
the
depends
best?
on your occupation, but I do a lot of this for my clients, especially in the medical field. There's medical specialty language inside of these contracts, so you got to understand that. And you want to work with someone who can have access to all of the different companies and figure out what has the best language in the contract. Because disability insurance is simply that. It's a contract that will pay you if something happens. So many of the contracts, unfortunately, with the associations or the group policies with some of the big hospitals have a lot of exclusions in them that will not pay if you have any pre-existing conditions and things like that. So you have to know what you're actually paying for. So you want to work with a professional that understands that.
It's great advice. And Scott, what you just said, what you were talking about honestly, I'm still thinking about it when you said an accident or something can happen where, like losing an eye, or God forbid getting into a car accident or something that could really
chronic back problems.
Back problems.
And I got them both, but it's the pain is just, I can't explain to you what the pain is. And so when you go to work, you love your job, but then you go and you feel the pain every day, and you're just like, you don't know how much more you can take at some point. So you have to bow out, and hopefully if you have another option, I didn't want to just end. When I retired with dentistry, I thought I still had something else I could do outside of dentistry, where I'm not bending over and actually working in people's mouths. So, that's where I went. And I was fortunately, I had the ability to be able to have some time to do that.
Yeah, you talked about that, being able to take that year off. Well, we're going to go to a break at this point, and then when we come back, I want to talk about reinventing yourself, because now you're an entrepreneur. Not that you weren't an entrepreneur before, but an entrepreneur in a completely different field than you would imagine. Okay, so we'll be right back. I'm Sarina Fazan, and like most people, my skin is a priority. When you look good, you feel good. That's why I turned to South Tampa Dermatology, a full-service medical and cosmetic dermatology practice. Dr. Flynn and her dream team offer the products, services, and procedures I need to keep my skin healthy so I can perform at my very best, and they can do the very same thing for you. It's affordable, and your confidence is priceless. Just head to stderm.com or call 813-872-9551 to make an appointment. Hey everyone, welcome back to On the Record. All right, during the commercial break, we were talking about something. We're going to get to the entrepreneurship. But Scott, you were talking with Lowell Beckner, the general manager, who also, he always gets so like, do you always have to bring me in? Yes, I do, because I'm a huge fan. But talk to me about the fusions, and you said you went to Vail, Colorado.
Yeah, Dr. Kornman.
Yeah, so tell, and the statistics.
He just told me, he said he does more dentists than he does NFL football players, which I found very interesting with the neck fusions. So it's a common theme with dentists.
Well, I mean, sadly, that's so interesting. So because you're bending over so much, and wow.
Yep, and now with more and more patients can't go as far back in the chair, so it becomes much more frustrating for us to get a good line of sight. I actually was using a video out of my light in the latter part of my career, which would show a picture up on a TV screen over the patient, so I could actually work off of that. It was really hard to do, but that gave me some more time too. So I wasn't necessarily looking in the patient's mouth as much. Mm-hmm. I think there's some future for that. But it was also good for recording what I was doing with patients, how they could see their teeth and all that. So there's technology there that can help.
Yeah.
And that's always so interesting because there's always new technology, always coming. But why, I can't help it, right? I'm a journalist. So when you said patients can't go far back in the chair as they used to, why is that?
I think the more medical concerns, more breathing trouble. There's a lot of reasons. We're treating more elderly patients. We're living longer. So folks keeping their teeth longer. So we couldn't lay them back as far. So any dentist knows that when you can't lay them back, when you start to lay them back and they're going, oh, that's it. Oh, it's a rough day.
Wow.
Because we just can't see.
Yeah, that's tough.
So, and for lack of a better term, and I know that you, thank goodness for saving, and thank goodness for the steps you took early on. You were able to reinvent yourself, right?
Sure.
But talking about dentistry, do you miss it?
Oh, every day. It's a heartbreaking thing for me, but my body is better. This is the only body I get to walk around this earth with. So when I made that decision, I pretty much let it go. I was a CEREC dentist, so I made my own crowns. I really love that artistic part of it. So I miss that, but and I miss my patients. I miss my team. I had some absolute beautiful ladies that I worked with for 25 or 26 years.
Wow.
Which is incredible.
And prior to the show, you were sharing that you knew you wanted to be a dentist at a very young age, or a doctor, like at around 14 years old or something.
Yeah, it was pretty early.
Yeah, so speaking of that, so here you are, thinking, all right, I graduated from dental school, and how many years is dental school, and then
it's 4 and 4, so 4 undergrad, then 4 in dental school.
Right, so a lot of time, right? Yeah, okay, so here you are. I would imagine once you graduate, start your practice, you're thinking, all right, so this is great. I'm so passionate about what I love. This is what I'm going to continue to do until I retire.
Sure.
Then, sadly, for those who are just joining us, you have this injury that you can no longer practice dentistry. Yeah. You take a year off. Thankfully, because of the financial decisions you made. So what did you decide to do? Now, finally, right guys, talk about the businesses.
Well, my wife walked into a restaurant in Palm Harbor. It's called Grain and Berry, and she immediately fell in love with it because we knew we were looking for something for me to do. I can't bend over and do dentistry anymore. I have to do something because you just got to keep busy. So we met Doug and Trey, and we talked to them about it. The healthy acai bowls, that's what we do. We do all kinds of different bowls, kale, pitaya, acai. And I just fell in love with it and worked with them and decided to open up my first store in Carrollwood. And then we opened a second in New Tampa. And it's been a challenging field for me because I come from the dental side. So it's more of the restaurant side, which is a different animal. But I'm learning as I go, and I'm liking doing it.
Well, it's fantastic. So you opened up 2 Grain and Berries,
Yeah.
and you're also thinking about opening up a gym, right?
We are. We're actually, my wife and I are opening up, it's called Hot Works, and that's a sauna box where you work out in infrared heat inside your own box. Like you can do cycle, you can do yoga, HIIT, Pilates, all that good stuff. So we're opening one in Odessa, and that's kind of my wife's baby.
No,
So-
it's great, but it just shows that here you are, thinking again that you will practice dentistry until you retire, then finding a new passion,
Yeah.
and putting yourself into a completely different field. So it's not like you're going back into a dentistry office, say hypothetically, right, and working as the administrator for the dentistry
Right,
office. You've actually
right.
found a passion, because clearly you guys are both in great shape. So you take care of yourself and everything. So
Have to.
you have channeled your passion into something else.
Right.
So Dave, Scott was able to do that, and tell us how you can continue your dream.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, and that's the great thing about what he's able to accomplish. It's the ability to work and open up businesses, become an entrepreneur in a completely and utterly different field than obviously what you studied and practiced for so long. But his saving habits allowed him to do that, right? Without those saving habits, you can't take advantage of opportunities when they present themselves. And that's an incredible part of his journey.
Is being able to take advantage of the opportunities that, and you don't know what's going to present in front of yourself. You really don't.
Yeah.
Well, it's like you, Dave. You were a teacher.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Share your story. So here
Yeah.
you are. You moved right to Florida as a teacher.
No, so I moved as
you
a
were in the
mortgage.
East Coast.
Yeah, I was grew up in north of Boston.
And he's a huge Yes, Dave is a huge Tom Brady fan.
Yes, I am.
He
Yep,
wanted to be
me
on the
too.
Super Bowl
Absolutely.
shows.
I had to buy the season tickets immediately. So I'll look forward to actually going to the games this year.
So I just have to mention. So here's Dave. I've known him for a while. He's like, awesome, Tom Brady is here and getting these season tickets. He gets the season tickets, and sadly, yes, and I know that
Actually,
virtual
COVID
problems.
obviously was in the middle of COVID when I bought them. But we bonded over that too because he's a Michigan guy.
Yeah.
Obviously, Brady went to Michigan, and huge Brady fan. So go Bucks now, still go
Yes.
Patriots, but
Go Bucks,
go
right?
Bucks as well. Yeah.
But anyway, you were a teacher.
Correct. Yeah. Well, I moved to Florida, and that was 2006, and I was in the mortgage industry, and that was a tough place to be during that 2006, 2007 range, and especially moving to Florida at that time too. So worked for a couple of companies that will go unnamed that are no longer in existence now. And then was looking for a job. My wife, who is
Lindsay,
a physician
yeah,
assistant, Lindsay, was in between figuring out if she wanted to go to medical school or PA school. She went the PA route, but before that, she was teaching 6th grade science for a couple of years. So at that time, she said, well, put your resume in everywhere. This was 2007, 2008. There was a lot of fluctuation in the job market. And I didn't know that I could actually teach in Florida without a teaching degree, but you can and get what's called an agreement to earn. So I did that and actually really enjoyed it. I love the education part of it. The system's a little bit flawed, but I love the education of it. And probably always knew that I was going to transition into something else. And really what my job is now is it's education.
I was about to say, because
it's teaching people.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's educating people about what they're usually most stressed about and helping
Money.
them through those decisions. Right? So, but yeah, it's funny where life takes you.
Well, and I just think that what's so inspiring about the both of you is now you're taking your life lesson. You are, you open up these franchises, but now the two of you, right, are your friends, clearly, neighborhood friends. You never know who you can meet, but you're teaming up.
Yeah.
And tell us about, we know you want to go talk to students at dental, dental students, but tell us, Dave, what you guys are hoping to accomplish.
Yeah, so we just think we can have a tremendous impact on dentists and the dental market, right, society. Just obviously with Scott's knowledge of building an incredibly successful practice, right, working 3 days a week, having a place obviously in Michigan, but having a place in Florida, being able to travel and enjoy life. very successful in a rural area too. That knowledge is tremendous. And so many of my younger clients in the dental market might be working for somebody right now, but want to either buy in as a partner or open up their own business. So Scott's knowledge on that is tremendous. And his story about making sure that you're setting yourself up financially is obviously what I do, but Scott's lived it. Right. So we decided to say, hey, let's team up and try to really, bring this and help as many people as possible.
That's for sure.
It's so true. And that is your nature, to help people. I mean, you're volunteering and everything. I mean, every time I'm turning around, you're like, oh, I'm volunteering at this, I'm volunteering at that. No, but that's so great. But I think this even goes beyond just dentistry, right? Like, I know that's where you guys are going to focus because that is your profession. That's what you did for so long. But it's going to go but you would... This could be a life lesson for anybody, right?
Really, the story and the habits that Scott has developed and that I teach my clients, they're applicable to anybody in any career, truthfully. So yes.
That's great. So what is the next step? So what is the next step? Thank you for being on the record. So you guys are on the record talking about the next steps that you want to do, but what are the next steps? Are you asking people to reach out to you? Are you asking dental schools to come and speak, or dental students, or?
Yeah, so obviously anybody watching that has questions like that, or that that wants us to kind of tell Scott's story and show them how to plan. We'd love to speak to groups, get in front of people in the dental community, and just teach them how we can help them.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's our mission. I would say 100%.
Is to help. And now you can also talk to them about opening up a grain and berry and it's a hot wax, right? It's hot.
Works.
Yeah, hot works.
Hot works. Yeah.
Sorry. I've seen it. I've actually, I've heard the name.
It makes you sweat. Let me tell you, it makes you sweat. But it's good.
Well, what an inspiring story. And I just think it just shows that sometimes life can throw you some pretty, tough curveballs, but it's how you prepare and plan for it. And a curveball, maybe not necessarily, you may not be expecting it, but there are things we can plan for. And the lesson to help other people.
Absolutely.
Any final words, guys?
I mean, I just appreciate you having us on. I mean, it's always great to talk to you, and I think this is my third or fourth time.
Yes,
I think last time we were talking about Tiger King. Actually.
Yes, we were talking about Tiger King. Listen, I think you both should come on my Love in America podcast. I've asked, so I'm putting it on the record that I want Lindsay on the show. All right, Love in America.
I'll see what I can do to get Lindsay on.
That would be great. And Scott, what's your wife's name?
Debbie.
Debbie. All right. So Debbie, you're hearing it too.
All right.
Here too. Maybe you both can come back and we can talk about.
That'd be awesome.
I always tell the guys here my love. So it's on the record, but then I have many subcategories, right? And my favorite is love, because I am in love with love. So yeah. So Lindsay, listen, you got to come on. Debbie, you too. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. And please share this podcast. You can follow me on all my social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm everywhere. And if you have an idea for a podcast, I would encourage you to reach out to us here at CP Communications and Red House Streaming. I mean, Dave reached out to me about this inspirational story. I mean, every single week. And we like taking your ideas and bringing them to you. So thanks so much for watching and your support. Material discussed is meant for general informational purposes only and is not to be construed as tax, legal, or investment advice. Although the information has been gathered from sources believed to be reliable, please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should be relied upon only when coordinated with individual professional advice. David is a registered representative and financial advisor of Park Avenue Securities, LLC, PAS. Securities product and advisory services offered through PAS, member FINRA, SIPC, financial representative of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, Guardian, New York, New York. PAS is a direct direct, wholly owned subsidiary of Guardian. Impact Medical Advisors is not an affiliate or subsidiary of PAS or Guardian. California Insurance License number 09J44650, 2020 105290, expiration 7/22.
This podcast is for informational purposes only. On the Record and other guests are not affiliated with or endorsed by PAS, Guardian, or Impact Medical Advisors, and opinions stated are their own. 2021-120309, expiration 5/23.